Welcome to Gotta Ask. This is a presentation of Ump Life, the premier provider of customized umpire accessories and unique game use amenities. Tonight's program is entitled On the Move and will feature professional umpire Steven Jaschinski. Please type your questions in the chat box below and we'll get them to Steven as soon as we can. This video will be posted to the Ump Life page and the Ump Life TV channel on YouTube shortly after tonight's broadcast for further viewing. Keep in mind this feed is about 30 to 40 seconds behind what you are seeing. And now, here is your host of Gotta Ask, Ray Brownlee.
Wow, we blew the budget tonight. Thanks, Tommy.
That's the production. Jeez.
That's a really good intro. Tonight, folks, I have a great story I want to share. It's partly my story, but it's partly my guest story. It's what he's accomplished in 21 years on the planet. I want to welcome my good friend Steve Jaschinski, a professional minor league umpire who would be working Double-A this year, his first year in Double-A. Welcome, Steve.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ray. Thanks for having me.
What have you been up to?
Not much. I'm actually out in Phoenix, Arizona right now. Soaking up the sun out here. It's beautiful weather, so definitely taking advantage of that compared to the snow I'm sure you guys maybe have back home in Toronto. But trying to keep busy right now.
Well, we're actually, the weather's turning. I got the patio furniture out, so we were out there the other day. It was warm enough. So what are you doing to stay in shape right now?
So we're actually getting, we have a medical coordinator, Mark Stubblefield in minor league baseball, and he's been really good working with us, sending us just weekly things that we're able to do to just stay in shape. And, obviously health and fitness is important as an umpire and making sure you're able to move out on the field and stuff, but also just a healthy lifestyle. But who knows what could happen with the baseball season, so it's important that we're staying in shape. So just having the ability to go outside and run and walk, and weights actually showed up from Amazon, so building a little bit of a home gym. So just doing those kind of things around the house to stay in shape.
Well, there was we were talking on this 5-10 days ago, and you're out on a hike just to keep it going, and you walk by the biggest cactus I've ever seen, and you keep talking to me, and you keep going down the road, and you get about another 100 yards, and I said, dude, you just passed the biggest cactus I ever saw in my life, and you said, don't worry about it, there's another one coming up.
Yeah.
So you stopped and you let me see it, and it's almost like when you haven't seen that before, like, wow, it's like people going to Niagara Falls.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny the things you become accustomed to. Like when I first came out here, the landscape and the scenery is very different than back home in Toronto. And so those are the things that catch you by surprise at first. And at first when I came out here, the cactus was like, oh wow, that's crazy. But now I've been out here for a couple months now, and you just get used to those things. So it was kind of funny that you brought that up when we were chatting. You're like, oh wow, you need to go back, and I'm like, oh Ray, don't worry about it. There's one coming up. Right. That was kind of cool.
Let's talk about your mom and dad, Norm and Heather Jaschinski, high school sweethearts, right?
Yes, they were, yeah.
So they get married, and in 1998, Steve Jaschinski comes along. And then in 2000, your sister Megan. So growing up in Southern Ontario, obviously, it seems like every kid can play hockey or goes to play hockey or figure skating or whatever. So you decided to get into hockey, and there you are as a goaltender. And as you know, when we met, that was one of the things we shared, our love for umpiring, and that I was also a goaltender. So it's kind of unique that, you were wearing one of these. That's one of my masks, and you traded in for one of these. So tell me about that. How did you leave hockey and get into umpiring, Steve?
Yeah, so being Canadian, I think it might be against the law to not play hockey growing up in Canada.
Yeah.
But I started playing hockey or being on skates when I was 4 or 5. It was something that I always enjoyed doing, and for whatever reason, I was gravitated to playing goalie all the way from when I first started in house league recreational hockey. And as I got older, I eventually got into competitive hockey and became a goaltender, and it was definitely an experience being young, and it really gave me the life skills, I think. Ray, you probably have the same experience, but as a goalie, you're either like the hero or the zero. there's no, you either win or you lose, and it's either your fault or because you guys won. And so I feel like it really helped build some of those confidence and handling or just performing in stressful situations, ever since I was a kid. And so growing up, I didn't start umpiring until I was about 10 years old. So I played hockey growing up, and then I started umpiring when I was about 10. And definitely some of those skills that I learned as a goalie definitely transferred over into umpiring, and has helped me today.
So your first year of umpiring, you won Rookie Umpire of the Year, and the Senior Umpire of the Year was Lisa Turbot. Lisa was a guest last week, and there you are there. So how old were you there?
I would have been probably 10 or 11 years old there. Yeah, it's crazy to see that picture. It brings back good memories. That's a long time ago. But yeah, no, I started umpiring when I was that was my first year, so about 10 or 11 years old. But my passion for umpiring actually came before I even started doing it on the field. I was watching baseball games on TV,
right,
as a kid before that, and most people, they watch the players, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, I can't tell you, but I was always gravitated towards the umpires. And funny enough, that year for Christmas, I asked Santa for the starter kit with the ball bag and the indicator and the plate brush. Wow. And I guess I was on the nice list that year, and I got that for Christmas, and then ended up umpiring that summer. And I was lucky enough to get that award. And it's crazy to see Lisa. Yeah, I know she was a guest on here, and she played a big part in getting me to where I am today. And that's the crazy thing about this profession, right? And it's great that you have me on here tonight. But the people you meet along the way, and the people that help you get to where you're at, no matter whether that's professional baseball or amateur baseball or even outside of baseball, like the connections you make, that's what carries on a lifetime. And so it's crazy to see that picture. I haven't seen that picture in years.
I saw it for the first time last week when Lisa sent it to Tommy to set it up, and I went, wow, that looks like little Jaschinski. And sure enough, it is. So let's throw up another picture of you actually umpiring, probably at that age, or maybe 12. So
that would have been one of my first couple seasons, yeah.
Yeah, you're wearing you know what? You got no plate shoes on. You're wearing blue shin pads, but man, look how more advanced you look already than the players.
Yeah, no, but it was funny. So, obviously it started out the year prior, with the big balloon, the chest protector.
Right.
And I remember I just need to get a regular chest protector. That's what I was thinking. I need to get a regular chest protector. And so I went out and I saved my game fees up. And I went out to the local sporting store and I bought an inside chest protector. And it felt so cool to wear that for the first time. And
wow.
You just felt like a more put together umpire.
So as you're starting your umpire journey, obviously you've been in hockey. You're still playing hockey at this time. Your mom and dad, are they big supporters? Are they coming to your games?
Yeah, no, just talking about my parents and my sister and my family. Very, very lucky. I'm very lucky to have a very supportive family, and they've supported me throughout the way. No matter what I was doing, whether it was hockey or playing baseball or umpiring. Their big thing with me was, they were just wanting me to pursue whatever, I was passionate about. And wow. So whether that would have been, putting me in goalie camps, spending their money for goalie camps or baseball camps or whatever it may be. And I've been very, very fortunate to have such supportive parents. And that really translated to me as an umpire. I remember my parents coming to my first games and just having that support behind you was very powerful, and something I'll take with me for the rest of my life. And it's something that special when they're able to come out and watch me work in minor league baseball. Just to have a friendly face in the stands is always really, really cool. And for me personally, I maybe went a different route, or one that's maybe a little bit less supported, by going to umpire school when I was 18, right out of high school.
Yeah. And
the more people I talked to always recommended going to university first and getting a degree and then going to umpire school. It's important to have a backup plan. And when I talk to people today, I actually recommend the same thing. because, you know, in this profession, there's nothing certain. So,
Yeah.
you know, you want to make sure you have a solid backup plan before you chase the dream. But for me personally, that just wasn't going to fly. You know, I knew that this is something that I really wanted to pursue. I was passionate about it. And I wouldn't have been focused in university if I didn't give this a try first. And so my parents supported me though, and they've continued to support me. And it's really great to have that support system.
Okay, so before we get to 2017, when you go to umpire school, let me talk about how we got to know each other. In the summer of 2013, I'm working my regular IBL league, and this young man has come to a few games and wanted to meet the umpires. And, you know, it wasn't just me, he wanted to hang out, and everyone took a shine to him. Just a cool little guy. And so I really like him. And so fast forward to September 2013, someone asked me, hey, do you want to work with Stevie? I went, sure. So we're doing this travel ball game together, and I just want to share a few photos. So my opinion is, I've already met the kid. I really like him. He's a good kid, loves umpiring. I've never seen him work. Let's throw up a couple of photographs. I think there's 5 or 6. So that's that. I want to talk about growth spurt. So that's the 2013 on the left and 2014 on the right.
Yeah, I finally hit my growth spurt. It was long overdue.
It
finally came. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of my favorite 2 photographs of all time. But literally after we worked our game in 2013, let's look at the photographs. And so just look at how serious it is and just dwell on that for a moment. Like, I'm already figuring it out. Man, this kid can work. He's 13 years old. Let's go to another one. Wow.
It's funny with this one, just looking at it, you know, you always very, very critical of yourself. You know, I could have been in better position on that one. If you look at your angle, you could have been a couple more steps in. But no, it's really cool to see these pictures. Again, I haven't seen all these pictures in a long time, and it brings back a lot of good memories for sure.
Yeah, before anyone asks, why is the baseline white or black? It's just the way they painted it, because it confused the soccer people, and we worked there tons of times, and it actually does work. So just look at the seriousness. You're ready to go here, and I mean, there you are up the line, set. That's me in the background. Don't worry about me. We're just worried about you right now. Next one, Tommy. And now you're working the plate. We actually did a doubleheader that day. So, I mean, there you go. Look at that.
No,
what do you think about when you see these, Steve? What's going through your head right now?
No, it's just, you know, it's really cool to see that, you know, and just to see where everything all kind of began. And, sure. You know, we talk about it, and really, really, really fond memories. And, you know, I've wanted to be an umpire, a professional umpire for a long time, almost, you know, the better part of my whole life, I like to think of it, you know, and to get to go out and work, you know, professional baseball every day during the summer, it is really, I'm very, very fortunate. And sometimes I actually find myself pinching myself that, you know, I'm not where I want to be. Obviously, you know, there's a long journey ahead of me. There's a lot of work I still have to do, and I'm only partway through my goal. So it's cool to see, you know, guys like Jansen last week achieve their goal of sure. becoming full-time major league umpires. And you know, that's what, you know, inspires me, is to see that the hard work does pay off. And, you know, there's still a lot of hard work I have to put in, and there's a lot of time I have to put in. But it's cool to look back on these pictures, and it definitely motivates me to, you know, try to keep working hard and hopefully getting there where guys like Jansen are.
Next picture, Tommy. Okay, we're gonna talk about this in a second, but can you go back one, Tommy? Thanks, man. After this doubleheader was over, we got in a car, and you knew where to go. You're telling me how to get there. It's like, actually, no, before we got in the car, after the game, I thought, wow, you really impressed me. And I remember reaching into my trunk, and I pull out a baseball, and I walk over to you, and I said, hey, kid, I want you to sign this baseball for me. And you looked at me like I was crazy. And you go, why? I go, because one day when you're in the major leagues and I get to come and watch you do your first plate game, I'm going to give this ball back to you. So that was my impression of Steve Jaschinski, the 13-year-old umpire. So as we go to the other park to watch two former pro umpires from Ontario, Dave Attridge and Chris Marco, work in the Oakville tournament. It was a routine with Dave and Chris. They did it for years. You got invited to it. They told me to come over afterwards. And that's the night I meet your mom and dad for the first time. And I remember telling Norm and Heather, I said, I think your kid's an amazing young man. He has a gift. And again, as I say it now, the hair on my arms is standing up. And I truly believe that you have a gift. And then, you know, after the winter starts up, you invite me to go watch you play hockey, and I meet your mom and dad again. It's almost like we've known each other for years, and we're interacting in your young life, and your mom and dad are trusting me to be a role model for you. And I'll never ever thank them enough for letting me be part of your young life. And it's a friendship that'll last forever. Number one, it's been a blessing to watch such a dedicated, driven young kid do this. So now we're going to go to the winner of 2013, or the World Series 2013. You invite everybody to your World Series party. And I made you a poster. So Tommy, throw that up there. So it was all the professional umpires from Ontario, and it was 2013. And we're going to show a clip, aren't we, Tommy?
Yep, give me a second to bring it up.
Yeah, we're going to show the call at third base, okay? Whenever you're ready, Tommy, it's not a rush. So we're going to talk about that, because something that absolutely blew my mind that night after watching that was how you were watching it the same way. But as a 13-year-old with pretty good mechanics, pretty extensive knowledge of the rules, I believe you were the first guy to blurt it out. That's obstruction. And then we heard it from the other pros who were there. Yeah, it's going to be obstruction. Do you remember that night?
Yeah, briefly. Obviously, it sticks out because, you know, that's it goes down as, you know, a very, very prominent call in you know, umpire history, to make that call in that stage, and I believe it was Game 5 of the World Series.
Yeah.
To end the game is yeah, definitely remember that. But no, it's you know, stuff like that just really goes to show just how good major league umpires are, and they're at the top of, you know, the profession for a reason. And not only to make that call, but to make that call in that situation, that setting, it just really goes to show.
Let's watch the video. Here's the video, folks. So we're all in Steve's basement enjoying it, and you know, we're having a good time, and this happens. Great play by Latroya to get him out of the plate. And that's Dana DeMuth on the plate. He just retired.
Yeah, no, we're pretty lucky. I guess we had a pretty good view from the couch of that call. But Jim Joyce and Dana DeMuth, they were out there. They were, you know, kudos to them. They did their job, and that's it's really cool to see something like that. And, you know, Ray, that's just a point I wanted to make is, you know, something that we talk about in umpire school is what kind of mindset you want to have as an umpire, and the proper mindset to have. And, you know, a good umpire, a decent umpire, thinks about the 95%. We call it the 95-5 rule, right? They think about what happens 95% of the time.
Yeah.
A great umpire, they think about that 5%, right? The 5% of things that rarely happen. But pre-pitch, these are things they're thinking about, right? They're checking their fielders, seeing where possible obstructions could happen, stuff like that. And they're mentally preparing themselves for that 5% of the things that rarely happen. That way, when stuff like this happens, they're ready to make that call and there's no hesitation, because that 5%, that's your time to shine as an umpire. Yeah. That is your moment. And, you know, if you're not mentally prepared to make those tough calls because you're worried about the 95% of stuff, you're not going to be able to effectively make your call, right? So that's why it's so important to mentally prepare yourself, not for what you think is going to happen, but the thing that rarely happens. And that's the big difference in separating, you know, okay and decent umpires from great umpires, just how mentally prepared they are prior to the pitch happening.
Sure. I like how Jim Joyce, obviously there was an umpire on the left field line too, but Jim Joyce never took his eye off the players on the ground or one on top of each other. He sees the ball go away, and when they pan back, you'll see Jim Joyce. He's and on the other angle, you saw it.
Yeah, no, again, they're the best of the best for, you know, and just watching stuff like this too, it's really, you know, motivating. You know, you want to get to that level. Right, you want to be the best you can be, and these guys certainly are the best.
Okay, thanks for that, Tony. Here's something else that happened that night. So before the game started, we're at your house, we're having some food, and you know, you put on a nice spread for all us guys, older guys, and we get to tour the house, and you let us into your bedroom. This is something that is really cool to me. You expect posters and this and that on the wall, but you let us into your bedroom, and there's some baseballs, there's this, and I'm looking around and I'm going, oh my goodness, that's me on your wall. You have a photograph of me and Chris Marco and Dave Attridge and Costello and Chris Graham, and unbelievable. Like, that's a 13-year-old's bedroom, and I'm hanging out with you during the summer, and I come to the Watch the World Series party with you, and there I am on your wall. Like, that meant so much to everybody when all of us saw that. Like, wow, we've got to hang out with this kid all summer, and that's what he thinks of us. And it blew my mind, and even to this day, I think back on, you have to be one of the coolest 13-year-olds I had ever known. I really mean that. Like, it just.
No, thank you. But no, honestly, it's not an individual thing. It's, you know, I'm very, very fortunate to have had the support system, yes, by my parents, but also from the people around me that have, you know, helped me, you know, get to where I am today. And, you know, without every single one of you guys, it wouldn't have happened. So it's a group effort, and, you know, it's one of those things where because I wanted to do it for so long, you know, I looked up to major league umpires, guys in our local association. I idolized those guys, and I wanted to emulate those people. And, you know, I grew up wanting to be like them. They were, you know, my heroes as a kid. And, you know, just all the help and support that I've gotten from everybody. Like, I was very lucky to grow up in you know, Ontario, where there was, I believe it was six minor league umpires at the time. Mm-hmm. That lived within an hour of me. Yeah. And so ever since I was, you know, 13 years old, I had the opportunity to work on the field with them. When they'd come back in the fall, they'd help me out, or throughout my season, they would be sending me texts asking if I had any questions, or they would review video. If there was I was working a game that had, you know, like an overhead camera that was videotaped. And so very, very lucky to have that kind of support system, and just by everybody. I mean, as a kid, you know, I remember going to Bison games in Buffalo, the AAA team there, and just hanging out with the umpires before and after the game, and you know, just the one thing, you know, growing up is you're very, very thankful for those people for letting me, you know, come in the locker room, or for taking the time away from their day and talking to me and helping me, giving me advice, and you know, I feel like it really helped me get to go to umpire school, and it continued to motivate me to pursue umpiring. And, you know, just very, very thankful for everybody who's helped me along the way.
Well, I think fast forward to 15 years old, you're actually working in my league. So a quick story, 1983, a friend of mine, Jamie Corp, umpire in the league, recently just passed away last year in December. He's playing center field for the Brantford Red Sox in the championships. And as a 21-year-old or 22-year-old, I might have been the youngest IBL umpire ever working in the championships. And you kind of shattered my record. You're 15 years old.
No, I was
15 years old working our league. And you know what? I believe you were never out of place. You handled your messes that you had to handle, and nobody gave you a hard time because they're all looking like, wow, this kid is amazing. So
I don't know about amazing, but no, it was it was a very good experience to have that opportunity as a 15-year-old at the time to work, that level of baseball where there's fans in the stands and in a real atmosphere. That was very beneficial to me to be, eventually towards going to umpire school and then getting a job in minor league baseball. But just having that opportunity in the first place was really, really cool. And I know obviously a lot of people, or in a lot of leagues, you need to be 18 years old.
right.
And just to have that opportunity to be 15 and be younger and work in that league, definitely helped me. So no, again, it just goes to show the support system I've had ever since I started umpiring has been phenomenal, and just everybody has helped me so much, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And obviously there's a whole lot more work to put into it, and
right.
It's just great to have that people. Those are lifelong friendships.
Yeah. So at 15, 16, you're still refereeing hockey too.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, and I watched you referee, and Chris Marco, another really good referee who's going into AAA, Canadian boy.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you seem to be attached or pulled towards rules. Yeah. You learn them very easily. It comes naturally to you, but you're thinking of pursuing, maybe I can do hockey and umpire, referee hockey and umpire. Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, I thought at the time I could be maybe the Bo Jackson of refereeing or officiating. Didn't work out, but no, obviously, like for whatever reason, Ray, I can't really tell you why, but yeah, you're right. I've always been drawn to the officiating side of things. I played sports my whole life, but even playing baseball, I'd always focus on the umpires, or playing hockey, I'd always focus on the referees. And so I've umpired, since I was 10 or 11. So I started refereeing hockey. I figured that was a natural fit, but for that you had to be 16. And so I was, waiting to get to 16 so I could start refereeing hockey and make some money in the winter. So I stopped playing hockey so I could referee full time. And I thought there was a chance to maybe, climb the hockey ranks, but it actually came down to a decision. There was an officiating or a hockey officiating camp that I was invited to in January of 2017. The same January, I was scheduled to be at umpire school, and I had to make a choice. And umpiring in baseball is something that I wanted to do for since I was 9, when I started watching umpires on TV. And so even though I had the choice, there was no choice. It was baseball all the way. And I actually haven't refereed in a couple of years now, and I just was on skates for the first time back in December in a couple of years, and it felt weird. I was on skates ever since I was 4, so this is the longest stretch of time I've never been on skates. But sometimes I hear, like, do you wish that you pursued refereeing? And no, I know this is what I was. Baseball is what I was supposed to do, and very lucky to have the ability to pursue it as a career. And no, I know that I made the right choice with baseball.
So we're now getting ready to go to umpire school. It's, how did you decide on the umpire training academy? How did you pick your school?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. It was just something that, I Googled it and I did some research, and they're both really, really good schools. There's nothing better than the other school. Like they're both the top of their game, and then they both are really, really good schools. So no, it just worked out where I ended up going to the umpire training academy in Vero Beach, and I was very lucky that things worked out. But no, they're both very, very good schools. and it just happened to work out that way. But honestly, right, you're talking about umpire school. That was something that I wanted to do for a very, very long time. And ever since I was about 12 or 13, when that was my goal. My goal was to go to umpire school, and I wanted to become a professional umpire. I crossed off days in the calendar, counting down the days until I was 18 to actually go to umpire school. So when I remember signing up and sending in my deposit and enrolling, it was a really cool feeling to actually be there. And then to go through umpire school and the ups and downs of umpire school, for those who have gone, it's a roller coaster of emotions. It's a 4-week or 5-week program that's they throw everything at you. You cover every word in the rule book in the 4 weeks or the 5 weeks, and then in the afternoons you're out on the field applying everything that you were taught in the classroom. And so it's a long process. It's probably the best 4 weeks of my life. I've made lifelong friends from going to umpire school, and I was very fortunate at the end of that to be offered an invitation to the advanced course, and then a job in minor league baseball. And I remember getting the news that I'd been hired, and it didn't even sink in. I worked my whole life to get that news that I was officially hired in minor league baseball, and I didn't even really react. It felt so surreal. It took a couple of days to sink in, but because I idolized professional umpires for so long, and I suddenly became one, it was an interesting feeling. And I actually got a really good piece of advice from a fellow Canadian umpire when I got back home. I got back and he greeted me the next day. We went for lunch and he said, "Welcome to the club. Just know we put our pants on the same as everybody else."
Yeah.
And it's so true. My whole life I wanted to become a professional umpire, and nothing changed. I'm the same person. You leave there and it's the same. And so that was a weird feeling to go from wanting to accomplish that for so many years and then accomplishing it. It was a weird feeling, but that was a great piece of advice that I remember vividly. But it's funny how quick goals change.
Yeah.
Growing up, my goal was to get to umpire school, and then at umpire school you want to get to the advanced course. And at the advanced course you want to get a job, and then as soon as you get a job, now you start thinking about your next goal. And it's also another great piece of advice I've gotten is you don't want to think too far ahead.
Right.
And this was actually from somebody that accomplished their dream this year and got hired full time in the big leagues. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of as a minor league umpire, my goal is to get to the big leagues. And yes, that's all of our goals. There's no question that's everybody's goal, and it's good to have that goal, and you want to work hard to achieve that. But if you look too far ahead, you miss the things in the middle. You miss the journey, right?
Right.
And so the piece of advice I got was, you want to be the best umpire you can be at your level. So as a rookie ball umpire, when I was going in my first season, don't say, "Oh, I want to get to the big leagues," because that goal is so far ahead of you.
Right.
You want to focus on, you want to be the best umpire you can be in rookie ball. And then if you can do that, you've succeeded. And then you get promoted, hopefully, and you get to short season. If you can be the best umpire in short season, you've done your job. That's what you should shoot for. And I've really tried to carry that with me throughout my couple years of having minor league baseball. Right. And it was a very, very good piece of information.
So before we start your journey in the Gulf Coast League,
yeah,
you've gone to umpire school, you've been to the eval course, they like you, we're going to give this kid a job. So you get on the airplane and you fly home to see your family.
Yeah.
And now everyone remembers, great family, lots of support, and whatever Steve wants will help him get to his goals. Just the way I grew up, same way. But your dad decides to blow everything up by making a big announcement.
Yeah.
So this is unbelievable. So now you've graduated, you've gone home, and Norm's all happy that he's got a promotion. But tell us what happens next.
Yeah. So just going back, when I got the news that I got a job in professional baseball, one of the coolest phone calls that I made so far in my life was when I got to call my parents and let them know the good news. And that was a really cool moment to share with them, and one I'll remember. And but no, when I got home, they let me know that my dad had been given an opportunity to transition over to Europe, to Amsterdam, with his job. And so here I come home, I think, that I'm going to, I've grown up in Burlington my whole life in Ontario. And, I thought I would come home, stay at the house and go for my season and come back to the house and, live in the off season and just continue life the way that I had known. And so yeah, that definitely threw a little bit of a wrinkle into things. The mind started racing. What am I going to do? I had a system where I was refereeing hockey in the winter at the time still, and in the summer. So yeah, definitely a shakeup. But everything happens for a reason. I believe that. So the day I left for the Gulf Coast League, my first season, they actually flew out to Amsterdam. So I went one way and they went the other. But when I was packing for that year, I packed my stuff that I would need for the season. And then I packed all the other stuff that I had into a storage locker that I haven't seen since. So
I remember that.
That was quite funny that I had to really decipher what I needed. And, I knew they've been over there 4 years now. So I hope I made the right choice in some of the stuff that I picked. But no, it was interesting coming back after my first season. They were living over in Amsterdam, and I actually, because of hockey, I decided to live on my own in an apartment that first year. When I was 18, I was living on my own, and that really helped me mature. I feel like as an individual, having to just the basics, like cooking for yourself and cleaning and doing your laundry and all these things that you have mom do your whole childhood. Now you're doing everything, and so it really helped me grow up. But definitely a great experience, and then having the ability to go over and visit my family in Europe. And I never thought they'd do that. I never thought I could say I've lived in Europe. And so in the off season to this day, I still go over there for a couple months and spend that time with them.
So you, when you're back in Ontario and Norm tells you we're leaving for Amsterdam, you're going to the Gulf Coast League. That's where you're going to start. So that's probably great because you're on the East Coast and mom and dad are on the East Coast of Europe. So it's not a bad commute, right? Problem is you only last a week in the Gulf Coast League and now you're on the West Coast of North America.
Yeah, no, I had started in the Gulf Coast League and I was very lucky to get promoted early on in the season. And I went out to the Northwest League. And never really been out there before. So, that's one of the cool parts about the job is you get paid to travel to places you have never really been to before. But yeah, no, it was a 9-hour time difference between us. So I would end up talking to them after my game. So when I'd be sitting in my hotel room at midnight, they were waking up in the morning. So I'd give them a call and the rundown on how the game went that night. And definitely an interesting dynamic because they just moved over there that summer. They didn't get a chance to come and see me. But again, it's in the last couple of years, they've come over a couple of times a season, and that's a big trip. Even though I've been more on the East Coast the last couple of years, but still a big trip, and to have that support and them coming over is really cool.
So you work after your promotion from the Gulf Coast League, you end up working the whole championship series, and you're actually in Vancouver, Canada. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I was lucky. So I got promoted early on in the season, but to get selected to work the finals that year was really cool. And it just so happened that Vancouver, the only other professional team in Canada, had made it to the finals as well. And so my plate job that series was Game 3, which was the day we opened in Vancouver. And so to be out there and hear the national anthem, "O Canada," sung by 6,000 of your fellow Canadians was pretty cool. Definitely something I'll remember for a long time.
Yeah. So you're done for the season. You've got an apartment, and you decide you're going to work some university baseball. The photograph up there is you, me, and Chris Marco. Chris Marco is actually going in this year into AAA, and you were just coming back from Vancouver, right?
Yep. Yeah. No. The picture that was up there briefly, that was from the championship game in Vancouver.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. And then so I came back and worked some OUA baseball that fall, and just a great opportunity to work with the the guys, that helped me get to where, I was. And that was just a fun time, getting to work with your friends. There's nothing better than doing that. So.
Right. Well, I agree. It's every time you guys are back in Ontario, it's always good to get together or hang out. And we don't do it enough, but you know what? We all have lives outside of baseball too. So, so the next year you start in the Midwest League, right?
Yeah. Started in the Midwest League in 2018, and
again, a full season of baseball, and again, you actually got to work the All-Star game.
Yeah, no, it's again, very fortunate to get those opportunities. Anytime something like that happens, it's definitely a very cool thing, very cool opportunity to be recognized. As umpires, we're not looking to get recognized or anything like that. Our job is to, we really want to fly under the radar. But to get recognized like that, it's always very special. And so that summer I was lucky enough to get selected for the All-Star game and then the championship series that year, and that was a very cool experience. And you actually came out for the All-Star game. It was in Lansing, Michigan that year, and only about a 4-hour drive from the Brownlee residence.
But Sandra and I also came out in early April. You remember that one?
Yeah. No, you bundled up. You came out. You survived the cold.
That was cold. That was your partner then was Matt Cowan.
Matt Cowan, yeah. Funny story about Matt. He was actually my instructor at a camp I attended in Michigan when I was a kid. I think we might talk about this later, but there's at the time, aside from the OBA one-day clinics that you needed to attend to become a certified umpire in Ontario, there was no other training camp going on. Right. And so I Googled it. I was 14, 15-year-old kid. I wanted to learn. I wanted to get additional experience in training. So I Googled camps near Toronto, umpire camps, and the Southeast Michigan umpire camp out of Livonia, Michigan popped up, and it was in February. And so at 14 or 15, I had my dad drive me over the border. We went to the camp for the weekend, and he would sit around in the hotel room, and I would go and participate in the program, and just stuff like that was really, really cool. And so Matt was an instructor there. He was, in the minor leagues at the time, and to get to pick his brain before I went to umpire school, just like, everybody else that I had the opportunity to talk to was really cool. And then I got the chance to work with Matt. So it kind of came full circle that worked out like that. We got very lucky.
And then he got promoted to the California League, right?
He did. Very early on. We worked together for 2 or 3 series, and I guess he got sick and tired of me, and then he got promoted. But it was really cool to see him get promoted. It's always nice when a friend gets the call to get promoted and is succeeding. That's what you root for. We're all one big family. And although umpires were in the minor leagues, especially, we're competing for jobs. We're not competing against other people. We're competing against ourselves. And that's the thing you got to remember is we want it's up to us to determine our own fate. And there's nothing more than I like to see than somebody else accomplish something, be successful. That honestly makes me so happy on the inside. I'm cheering for all these other guys to do well. You don't want anybody to fail. Right. This is your family. These are your brothers and sisters. And I truly view everybody as like my family. It's one big family, like we talk about, right? Yep. And you really want everybody to succeed, and there's nothing that makes you feel better than when they succeed. So to see him get promoted, it sucked because I thought I was going to get to spend a little bit more time with my friend, but very happy to see him get promoted, and then ended up getting to work with Kyle Nickel that the rest of that season, who Tommy I know you're friends with, and again, very, very lucky to have a bunch of good partners that I've had the opportunity to work with.
So now you're going in. Well, this year you would be starting in Double-A, correct?
That's right. Yeah. No, would be starting in Double-A.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it's
a quick journey. 3 years and you're in Double-A. That's really good.
Definitely very, very fortunate. It's pretty cool to think about it. I remember going to the games where Canadian umpires would be working in Double-A, and then to actually be at that level now, it's really cool. So I'm just looking forward to hopefully getting on the field at some point and working that game, because I haven't worked a double A game yet, but very, very fortunate to be in that spot. And it's cool. Like I said, sometimes you have to pinch yourself and step back and realize that even though there's a long road ahead, that you've come this far.
I always think of road trips that I take, and you've been on a few of them. Like I can get to Buffalo real quick, and I don't mind going to Erie, Pennsylvania, and hopefully I'll get to see you there this summer. So I'm looking forward to seeing you work 3-umpire mechanics in Erie, Pennsylvania, and who knows, maybe I'll make a further trip too.
Yeah, no, look forward to seeing you. That'd be great.
Yeah, Tommy, we have any questions?
Yes, we do, actually. We have 4 questions so far.
Let's go.
So the first question is from Jeff Rose. So do you still run around gas stations and do jumping jacks during pit stops on road trips?
Yeah, no, not anymore, Jeff. That was that's a funny story. But yeah, no, that was we used to work together back in the IBL, and that's a funny road trip story. It was good exercise though.
Great. Next question we have is from Jake Block, and this is actually a good question. What is the process like to learn 3-man umpire mechanics for some umpires for the first time when they're promoted to Double A?
That's a really good question, because obviously, at umpire school, all it's covered is the 2-umpire system, and there's no real formal training for umpires going from high A to Double A and to learn that 3-umpire system. But in the fall, I attended Arizona Instructional League, which is the most formal 3-umpire system training that we get. And, we have classrooms, so we'll have games, and the supervisors come out, the Double A supervisors, and we actually wear radios. And so they're giving us live feedback during the game, which is very beneficial. And then after the game, we'll debrief, and then we have the night classroom sessions. And it's a big change. You work your whole life doing the 2-umpire system, and the prior to 3 years in minor league baseball, and the 2-umpire system like the back of your hand. You don't even have to think about where you're going when the ball's hit. It's just a natural reaction. But then you add a third umpire out there, and you have different responsibilities and different guys you have to look at during the play, and different responsibilities. It definitely throws a wrinkle into things, and it's not something you get your first time. I by no means have it mastered at all. I was lucky to have the ability to learn it in instructional league, and something that I was looking forward to, continuing to learn at spring training and then during the season. But it's definitely it's different, but it just comes with experience.
Yeah, you had a lot of experience already when you worked with us. And then especially, you'd say, are we going to work the Baseball Canada mechanics, or are we going to work advanced? So you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, no, there was. I was lucky that I got the opportunity to work in the IBL, like we were talking about, that worked the 3-umpire system. So I did have that experience, a little bit under my belt, which definitely helped. It definitely was like a good foundation to have that knowledge going into the instructional league. So I wasn't starting from scratch like some guys were. I had a foundation, so I was able to, go a little bit more maybe in depth with why. And that's something that I really like to think about, and something that, at umpire school that I like to talk to, teach other guys, is just, you want to understand why you're going somewhere. If you're not going to learn anything by just going somewhere for the sake of going somewhere. You really want to understand why you're going somewhere, which lets you fully understand it. Because when you understand why, your angle is going to be a certain way. So in order to see that certain angle, you got to be in this position to see it. If you can understand why you got to be somewhere to see an angle, you're going to get there, and it's going to just become second nature, not just spot umpiring.
So you're now actually, you went to the Umpire Training Academy in 2017, and now you're actually an instructor there. How'd that happen?
No, that's, again, very, very fortunate. So, I went through the umpire school in 2017, and then in 2019, I was brought back as an instructor. And so this past year was my second year as an instructor. And, it's really cool to get to go to the school, and then it's just extremely humbling to get invited back. There's obviously not very many people that teach at the school. And so to be invited back by our supervisors was really, really cool. And honestly, that's something that, just teaching and talking umpiring is something I love to do. Sometimes I even joke that I actually love that part more than the actual umpire. And so just having an opportunity to go and teach the young guys is really, really, really cool. And it's really rewarding too. Honestly, it's really rewarding to see their progression over the 4 weeks. To see somebody who day one might be even a brand new umpire, because in umpire school, you don't need any experience. And then you're a day one brand new umpire, and then see the growth over 4 weeks. It's incredible. And just that you see it very evidently, the growth that everybody has over 4 weeks. It's incredible. And, to see those guys succeed and then get jobs in minor league baseball is pretty cool. But it's also a good opportunity for us too, get the refresher on the rules, stuff like that. It's great, but very, very important.
One thing I can say, not too many 19-year-olds own their own umpire training company.
Yeah.
I was part of that, the first one. It was a huge success. You're self-funded, great support from your parents who made trips to be there. And then you do the second version, and I see a kid named Matthew Blackborough there.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wow, this kid can work. And he's a former player like you. And now, he goes to umpire school, gets a job. And when I saw you in January down at school, I see Matt Blackborough there as an instructor. Yeah. So you get the same goosebumps seeing him work as I did when I first saw you work. And, what's he doing?
Yeah, no, it's cool to see guys, your friends succeed. And for him, going back to Seabuck, when I finished my first season in 2017, like I said, in Ontario, aside from that one-day camp, there was no real formal training. And so instead of making everybody drive to Michigan, I wanted to come up with a solution. And so I was actually in my bedroom talking to a couple other minor league umpires from Canada at the time. And I came up with the idea to just, if there's not a school close by, well, let's make one. And, or a camp close by, we'll make one. And so we came up with Seabuck Canadian Baseball Umpire Camps. And, it was a good opportunity to offer some kind of formal umpire training to people in Ontario. And we actually had people come from the U.S. and actually from Curacao. Yeah. So it was really, really cool to see that, grow. We put on 3 programs, and then just from, now teaching at umpire school and different things, we weren't able to run a program this year. Just logistically, it didn't work out. But Matt Blackborough attended one of our fall programs. I guess it would have been 2 years ago before he went to umpire school. And, Matt was somebody I've known for a while as well. He grew up in basically the same city I did. And to see him at that camp and then see him at umpire school and then see him grow over the 4 weeks at umpire school was incredible. And then, to follow his journey through the season, keeping in touch with him and seeing how things went. He was in the Gulf Coast League last year. And then seeing him get invited back to school, that was really, really cool. And, he's got a very, very bright future ahead of him. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's gonna do great things in this profession.
Tommy, you got any questions?
Oh yeah, we got a couple of them have stacked up here. So Justin Miguel Alvarez asks, who is your favorite goaltender?
Hey Justin, good to hear from you. I hope you're doing well. Justin was at umpire school this year, so Justin, I hope you're doing well. That's a good question. I'm obviously being from Toronto. I'm partial to the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're my team. But I think my favorite goalie was Ed Belfour. He's a little bit of an old school guy, but he was playing for the Leafs when I was growing up, and I remember just watching him on TV, and I actually had the opportunity to meet him when I think he was playing for Florida when I was a little bit older. But no, he had a good style of goaltending that I tried to emulate, so that was pretty cool.
Great. All right, the next question comes from Kelly Elliott Dine, who was our guest last week.
Hey, Kelly.
Do you have any short-term goals? For example, 1 or 2 things that you want to work on in your game this next season?
Yeah, so no, and that's a great question. Having short-term goals is really good. Obviously I talked about, this year I want to be work at striving to be the best umpire I can be in AA. But my short-term goals are, I want to improve my 3-umpire system knowledge. Obviously this is going to be the first season I get a chance to work the 3-umpire system on a daily basis. So just continuing to work on, positioning and getting comfortable to the point where I don't have to think about where I'm going. You want to think about, what could happen, whether it's, interference and obstruction. You don't want to have to think about, if the ball's hit here, I have to move here. You want that to be second nature. So you give yourself the ability to process other things. So my goal is I want that to become second nature. Again, that just comes from experience. And then, I want to continue to work on my situation handling. Being a younger umpire, I think that's something that, every umpire can work on is their situation management. And, again, that comes with experience. And so, as I gain experience, that's something that, I build and I get to know what works for me. And because you hear stories all the time, that somebody had this situation and they handled it this way and they got out of it. And you're like, okay, I can do the same thing. And then it blows up in your face. Situation management is very personal and it's personalized. And what works for somebody might not work for you. And what works for Ray might not work for me and vice versa. And so you got to try things out and see what work. And some things, burn up in smoke, and some things work. But those are the 2 short-term goals I want to work on.
So let's we haven't talked about your sister much, but let's talk about Megan, your sister.
The smart one.
You're older, and you blow me away with your rules knowledge and how quickly you can quote it. And your sister Megan is going to Oxford.
Yeah, no, she's in her finishing up her first year at Oxford University over in England, getting her studying for her master's in chemistry, and so very evident that she took the brains for the both of us.
Yeah, that's impressive.
No, it is. I joke. I was over in Amsterdam over the holidays, and she showed me one of her textbooks. They're like this thick, and she's got a whole bunch of them. And opened them up to the table of contents. I don't even understand the table of contents. So the fact that she's over there doing all this stuff, and she's really, really succeeding over there, and just to hear some of her remarks and just some of the things, she's definitely the smart one. There's no question about that.
Wow, you guys are overachievers.
Yeah, no, she's really, really, really special, and again, just great having that support. And now actually I've taken this opportunity right now during the little bit of a hiatus to fulfill a commitment I've had to myself and to my family. So, obviously going to umpire school at 18, I didn't go to college. But, my parents, they both went to college, and, it's something that they valued. And so I made a promise to them was that, at some point I'm going to get my backup plan. I'm going to get my some kind of post-secondary education. Okay. And I put it off this long, but I'm using this time right now I'm pursuing a degree in criminal justice. We're lucky to have some kind of some benefits through our union with minor league baseball, and so I'm taking advantage of that and trying to use this time productively. There's only so many puzzles and stuff you can solve right now, so trying to use this time to fulfill that promise to them.
Tommy, you got any questions left?
Yep, we got several. So one comment from Jim Rizzolo. He just wanted to mention that he'll never forget how bad you were hit by a foul ball in Cooperstown and how upset you were when the doctor told you no more plates that week.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember when I was 16 and 17, in the summer, I'd spend a week in Cooperstown at the All-Star Village. And again, just the people we meet along the way. There's a great group of guys that would go to Cooperstown every year. That became lifelong friends, and that was my first year, and I got smoked like we all do, and ended up having to go to the hospital to get an X-ray on my arm. It looked like I had a watermelon growing out of my wrist, and thankfully nothing was broken. But the doctor's like, yeah, you can't work the plate anymore, and obviously the plate's where everybody wants to be. Everybody wants to be behind the plate. It's your game when you're behind the plate, and so hearing that news wasn't good, but, you got to take the advice and get to, you got to stay safe and stay healthy. But no, it was really great to get the opportunity to meet and work with all those guys, and I've stayed in touch with them, and whether or not they're able to come out and see me during the summer, it's great to keep in touch with them.
Nice.
All right. Jake Block asks, what kind of baseball, Rays League, do you guys keep referring to?
So it's called the Inter-County Baseball League. It's I guess the best way to describe it, it's like a mix between like a semi-pro league and like a college wood bat league. So there's a bunch of players who play in the NCAA. And once their season's done, they come back and it's like a summer league for them. And some guys who were played in the minor leagues and got released, they come and play in this league. And it's not the greatest baseball, but it's a very competitive level of baseball. And, it's a very good stepping stone. It's actually a league that a lot of the Canadian minor league umpires have worked in. And just a great stepping stone to prepare you for, just the intensity of what a minor league game could resemble.
Okay, so Simon Rebello had two questions. The first one is advice or tips on handling or surviving all the time MLB guys spend on the road.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And, obviously that's one of the biggest changes. So when I was first starting, I was 18 years old, basically, on my own out west. Unfortunately, the partner that I was working with that summer was got hit in the match with a foul ball and was concussed and was out for 4 or 5 weeks. And so they sent him home. And so I was working the fill-ins for most of my first season. And so I was literally traveling myself. It was just me on my own. I was too young to do anything really after the game. So I would, try to go to the gym in the morning and then come back and, I like to take a nap before the games. It just helps me mentally prepare and make sure I'm focused. And then I work the game and then I would come back and there really wasn't much for me to do. And it was unfortunate and the situation, but again, that really helped me mature, having to work with different umpires every night, and some of them were of different calibers, and then, just being put in that situation and then, working the plate and then driving by yourself and then getting up in the morning and then driving and working the plate again that night. It was an unfortunate situation, but it made me mature quicker. But no, it's just, you got to find something to stay busy. So now this year, I was looking forward to having my online study, so you got to stay sharp. It's very easy to fall into a routine where, you're just lounging around into the game. And I find that when I do that, I'm not as sharp as I should be for the game. And so having, the online, the course that I can do, or whether it's going to the gym or having lunch with the crew, that's a big thing. Crew camaraderie is really important. There's just different things you can do to stay busy.
Okay. His second question was, any tips on situational handling at your pro level? Yeah.
So, I think the biggest piece of advice is you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listening is very important. And I know Jansen talked about this last week as well, but, you can get out of a lot of situations just by listening. The last thing you want to do is, you have a close play at second base or something, and the manager comes sprinting out of the dugout, and you think it's about whether or not he tagged him, and then the other guy's thinking that maybe the ball was on the ground, and you jump the gun too quick, and you say the wrong thing. You can get yourself into a sticky situation really easy. So it's very important to listen. And, especially as a younger umpire, I've got a baby face. I felt like, there's times where, people will push me more than they would somebody who looks a little bit older. And that's something that I dealt with as a in amateur baseball as well, is just, they want to test you. So have a line. You don't want to be that umpire that is not approachable, because that's going to get you in just as many situations as, if you're, a pushover. But you want to be approachable, listen to what they have to say, and then when you've had enough, you draw your line. And if they cross the line, they basically ejected themselves. You're not ejecting them. If you've warned them and they cross your line, they've just ejected themselves. So that's really the best advice I can give is, again, it's something that, I'm still experiencing, trying out different things. And different things you can say, and sometimes they work and they de-escalate a situation. Sometimes you say the wrong thing and it escalates the situation. You go, oops, not going to use that one next time. But just finding that balance and just making sure that you have your line, whatever you're comfortable with, because again, that varies person to person. You come up with your line, and if somebody crosses that line, don't be afraid to pull the trigger.
Any more questions, Tommy? Because we're about 10 minutes over.
Nope, we're good to go, sir.
Okay, so hey, Steve, I want to thank you for doing this. It's a really good story to tell everybody, and bottom of my heart, thanks, buddy. It's really good. This is it for Series 1 of Gotta Ask. I'm working on Series 2 right now. By far, this is a great story to tell, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. So
Thank you for joining us for tonight's broadcast of Gotta Ask, entitled On the Move, featuring professional umpire Steven Jaschinski. We hope you have enjoyed tonight's episode as much as we have enjoyed having you here. Have a good evening, and may you and your family stay safe and healthy.
The rush of being home and rapid fading, failing to recall what I was missing all that time in England.